spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers.
Well, beam me up. This week on Max Mike Movies, we are warping into the unknown. I Made from TV Love You is the series where we focus on movies that dredge up old TV shows, dust them off, and make them all pretty again. Movies that adapt splendor from the past. And what resurrection best exemplifies this trendy little process? Perhaps it will be 2009's Star Trek. That's it. No Wrath, no Generations, no Voyage, no Whales, just Star Trek. And perhaps it won't. Or has it? Sitting in the captain's chair, wondering what the hell he just sat in, is the Admiral of Admiration, the Commodore of Accommodation, Melcott Max Levine. Say tapow, Max.
May the force be with you. Wait, damn, that's wrong.
Fail. Bumpy poop on him. Me, I'm the ensign of enigmas, the party goer of the lower decks, Mogato Mike Loose. Ook. We'll get back to Star Trek right after this word from our sponsor, the Bruno Kirby Memorial Fat Suit. But first, there's the poll question.
Yes.
Last time we asked you, what is one of your favorite pieces of movie casting? And boy, howdy did you have answers. First up, we got the Wheeze. Quote, "Oh man, I feel this way about a few of the Marvel people. Downey playing Iron Man is iconic. I feel similarly about Cumberbatch playing Strange." End quote. Can't say I disagree.
Yeah.
Weasel also later snuck in, quote, "Jeffrey Rush as Barbossa," end quote. Another good choice, because
that was really good, yeah.
Well, the fact that he looks just like a squid really helped.
Well, he does look like a damn pirate.
Because, there's no special effects in that film.
Oh, no.
It's true. Or makeup. Steve Kellner gives us Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, since the Ultimates Nick Fury was based on Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating, but sure.
End quote. And let's be fair, Samuel L. Jackson in pretty much anything.
That is also fair.
Steve also added later, quote, "Matthew Lillard as Shaggy," end quote.
That was actually, that movie is not very good, but that is friggin' dead on casting.
Yeah, it is. Newcomer Justin Donahue offered, quote, "essentially the entire cast of The Princess Bride," end quote. That is a fan favorite indeed. Thanks, Justin. Ian Coleman says, quote, "Martin Landau, Bela Lugosi," end quote. Ooh. And damn, that is a fine and surprising bit of casting.
Yeah, that really was. That blew me away.
You have to be double jointed.
Oh, you did that.
Our good friend Dave sent us a few. Matthew Lillard just nails the FBI character he plays in Bosch Season 2. Don't know it.
Oh, don't know it either.
I am partial to Mitch Pileggi in X-Files, end quote.
Oh, he does do a nice job as Skinner.
Skinner! Okay. You're fired! I don't think that ever actually happens. Thanks as always, Dave. He also had another one in there that I had to cut out because I looked it up and I could not find said actor in said movie. And he said, I also really liked Edgar Bergen in To Have and Have Not. And
wait, what? I don't think that's right.
So, Dave, if you have a correction for us, let us know.
Yeah.
George Saulnier voted, quote, "I thought Ivana Lynch as Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter films was fairly perfect. Yeah. David Suchet's Poirot is definitive," end quote. If I remember correctly, didn't Rowling expand the character of Luna Lovegood because of that performance?
I think that's what the rumor is, yeah.
Yeah. And I can't think of a better Poirot. See our previous episode on Murder on the Orient Express. Sneaking in totally on her own without any kind of prompting from me, we have Val's take, quote, "I completely agree about David Suchet. I also think no one but Madeline Kahn could play Eunice in What's Up, Doc, and only Bogey in Casablanca," end quote. I was amazed. That's the only vote we get for Bogey. I really thought that was going to be one of the ones, but nope. Everyone did a lot more recent stuff.
Interesting.
Charles Forsyth sent, quote, "Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Also, Anthony Daniels as Legolas in the Ralph Bakshi animated 2/3 of The Lord of the Rings," and that's just the title. I had to go look that one up as I had no recollection of Mr. 3PO in that movie, but he is in fact correct.
No kidding. I didn't remember that either. Huh. All right, he really must disappear into that.
Were we into it or whatever, or there's a lot of hash.
Well, it should have been a tip-off when he refers to Gimli as you overweight glob of grease.
Yeah, we should have realized that. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Joining the Just One More Thing club, Charles came back with another one, Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers.
I haven't seen that, but yeah.
Matt Reisman offered, quote, I tried to answer just one person, but I don't know that I'd change a single casting choice in Lord of the Rings, end quote. Yeah, neither would I. Yeah, I can't. Would you recast anybody in that film?
Bill the Pony?
Yeah. With Bumpy?
Yep. I would like, because nobody talks about Bill the Pony got cut out.
If you'll remember in the book, I think if you remember in the actual text that Mr. Tolkien wrote, Bill the Pony was known to have gone back to town and was absolutely fine, just as Bumpy will be. There.
Yeah, no, except Bill in the movie ended up on the cutting room floor, which is where Bumpy belongs.
Yeah, you're going to find something else on your cutting room floor. Jamie Kleinert offered another genre franchise with her answer, quote, Nathan Fillion as Malcolm Reynolds in Firefly and Serenity, hell, the whole cast of Serenity and Firefly, end quote.
It's a hell of a cast.
Fans just love that show. Thanks, Jamie. Kelly Cooper had a lot to say. Quote, Tom Hiddleston as Loki in the Marvel Universe is probably my top choice for this category. Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther and Ryan Reynolds. You can't say Ryan Reynolds. Did you know that? It's true. You can't say
Of course
Ryan
you
Reynolds.
can. Ryan Reblas. Hang on.
See?
Riboflavin, damn it. Riboflavin. Crap.
Yeah, pizza. Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool are tied for second. George Clooney, John Turturro, and Tim Blake Nelson in Oh Brother Where Art Thou are iconic. I will get some speech lessons between this episode and next week. Can't imagine anyone else playing those fellows. Regina King as Angela/Sister Knight in the Watchmen TV series.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk as Mr. Nobody and Brendan Fraser as Robot Man on Doom Patrol. I've only seen the first episode, but they're both perfect, end quote. There is a lot of love for the comic book movies, isn't there?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
And last, but not very much least, or not at all least, we have our friendly Canadian Vince with, quote, perfect casting, David Bowie in The Man Who Fell to Earth, which apparently is going to be a TV show soon for some reason, end quote. A TV show about the man who fell to Earth. That, thanks, Vince. And
thank you, Vince.
Thank you for all your answers. Bumpy Bucks are in the mail for sure. And look for the all-new Bumpy Hut catalog, which might come out at some point. Max, what about your answer?
Well, really, I think the most perfect casting in cinema history was Bill McCutcheon as Droppo in Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. I mean, really, there's no one else who could have done that character. He just becomes Droppo. I mean, that's one of the reasons no one's remade the movie is just
Droppo. Yep. That's where you're going.
Now, I have to say, I didn't think of like the entire cast, but I always thought Ian McKellen as Gandalf was just flawless. That was just brilliant casting. What about you?
And when we get Christopher, I was going to say Lloyd, but Christopher Lloyd did not, in fact, play Saruman. That was,
I don't know, Gandalf.
Gandalf, you killed my orc. What is his name?
Christopher Lee.
Made a damned good Saruman, because there was a slight hint of that, well, he does seem to know what he's talking about, maybe I should just do what he says, and a whole lot of, or I will kill you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what ends up happening to Saruman.
And he's got that voice. He's got that incredible, yes, master, Mr. voice.
I mean, I don't think I'd go into the ninja fighting. I don't think that was necessary, but whatever. Bogey as Richard Blaine in Casablanca is kind of as iconic as it gets. But I have to agree with the Wheeze. If they didn't get Robert Downey Jr. to do Tony Stark, and he didn't just inhale that part and make it what it is, I honestly don't know that we'd have the Marvel Universe.
He was the one who kicked it off, and he really, I think, was the first flawless piece of casting for the Marvel Universe. There have been several that are really good, other people mentioned. But I think you're right. I think he set a really strong foundation. I mean,
Iron Man, when they said they were doing Iron Man, I'm like, wait, really? I like Iron Man, but is that who you're going to pick? He's not exactly why not another Spider-Man? Because that's like the big Marvel character. And I was like, I like Iron Man and I'd love to see a movie, but really? And when I saw that film, it's like, I want more.
Yeah.
This was fun. I loved it. And especially at the end where he's like, I have an announcement to make. I'm Iron Man. It's like, no, you're not supposed to. But it was great. It was like, now what? So, yeah, I honestly don't think we would have had, the other 50 movies, or the TV series too, if we did not have that. So, thank you all for your answers. Seriously, we do love hearing the answers.
We do appreciate it. It's great when people respond.
But this week, we'd like to know, in a twist from a couple of weeks ago, what is the one movie that you just really love that everyone else seems to hate? And if anybody, Weasel, answers Star Wars Holiday Special, we will remove every bumpy buck from your account.
And have you committed?
Another way to look at it is that what movie warms your heart but makes your other friends look at you funny when you mention liking it? Tell us, won't you?
Caligula doesn't count. We really don't want to know.
Tell us, won't you, in the usual ways that, as usual, will usually be mentioned at the end of our little show. But now,
as per usual,
on to that segment that satisfies trivia. The show. That Vulcan salute. It's been a problem for years, starting with T'Pau in the original series. That actor had to hold the salute below the camera and raise her hand as she was unable to make it on cue. Zachary Quinto had to glue his fingers together.
It's not that hard.
I can do it. The original USS Enterprise is 947 feet long. That has nothing to do with this movie, but it's a fact that's been in my head since I was 10, and I'll be damned if I don't use it for something.
Oh, what a cute little nerd.
Oh boy, am I a Star Trek nerd.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy, who had turned down many other opportunities to replay Spock because perhaps after his book I Am Spock, he had decided that, once again, I am not Spock.
I was right the first time, I'm not Spock.
Decided to take the part because the role was so rich in history and scope of the Spock character. The Romulan voices heard in the background were recorded by none other than Wesley Crusher. I knew we couldn't trust that kid. Wait. He hasn't been born yet, so... Right. Okay.
It was his sweater doing the talking.
Olympic hopeful Wesley Crusher. I'm sorry, but that's what his little top always reminded me of. It's like, oh, I'm going to make the team someday. And I'm being cruel because I actually really like Will Wheaton. It's the character and the writing of him that was screwed up. So, anyway. When first meeting the actor who is to play his younger self, Zachary Quinto, Leonard Nimoy is reported to have leaned in and whispered, "You have no idea what you're in for." Yeah, he's probably true.
Yeah.
This is the last appearance, although appearance isn't the right word, of Majel Barrett Roddenberry as the computer voice, a role she'd played since the original 1960s TV show. Dr. McCoy's divorce and daughter Joanna, who is not actually mentioned in this movie, were subplots originally designed for the 60s show but were never filmed. So this is refired canon, I guess.
Hey.
The engine room of the Enterprise is actually a Budweiser brewery in Van Nuys. Yes, we will be talking more about that.
That explains all the big water tubes. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Winona Ryder, who plays Spock's mother Amanda, is only 6 years older than Zachary Quinto.
Oops.
Yeah.
That's okay. She shoplifted the extra years. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Ouch. Okay. The first, but not last appearance of a Beastie Boys song in a Star Trek film.
Yeah, the same Beastie Boys song, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Sabotage, and it's in Star Trek Into the Great Wide Open or Into Darkness or whatever the hell the third one was called.
Or, if you're William Shatner, it's Sabotage. But there you go.
Sabotage.
Yeah. William Shatner, speaking of the Shat, William Shatner very much wanted to appear in this film, despite his character, Captain Kirk, having died in Star Trek Generations. He was, strangely, both surprised and disappointed that he was not considered for a role in this movie. Oh, Shatner. At the time of the making of this film, the rights to TV versions of Star Trek rested with CBS, and the movie rights were held by Paramount. This would lead to some confusion, especially when CBS decided to flex its option and start the new TV series Star Trek Discovery. Would the two timelines work together at all? In the end, it wouldn't matter as CBS and Paramount merged, which means this will all Wait, there's two different Pikes. He's getting his
on.
own series, but the new Pike doesn't die in a radiation accident because he died... Wait, what?
What?
I don't know. Right, because Pike will die in Star Trek Into Darkness in the movies, but he's...
he did? I forgot that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, never mind.
Yeah.
And whoa, there is stellar, get it, amount of useless information that will likely be peppered throughout this show, so let's just park it here so we can get back to the plot. But, Max, do you have any trivia do you want to add in at the last minute?
Nah, my only thing was the use of sabotage as a bracket in the trilogy of Star Trek movies.
Or sabotage. Right, the plot. Insert cracking knuckle sound here.
Deep breath.
Can I let it out? The USS Kelvin is tooling around the galaxy when it suddenly comes upon a swirling, gaseous, black hole thing. Not a Spanus.
It kind of is.
Yeah, we get another one too, but anyway.
Yeah.
Out of it comes a huge ship that suddenly starts firing on our poor, hapless Federation vessel. Its captain, a Romulan, is looking for Ambassador Spock. Who the hell is that? Seems there's been some kind of time travel. See our previous series on time travel. And this Spock, whoever he is, doesn't even have rank yet. The Kelvin is a doomed ship, and its suddenly new captain, a George Kirok, sends everyone off, including his pregnant and very soon to give birth wife, while he pilots the ship on a collision course into the bad guys, not wackiness. Captain George lives just long enough to name his new son Jim. 10 years later, and young Jim has jacked his uncle's car, is being chased by the cops, and then has to ditch it over a cliff. Seems this Jim Kirk is a punk. Cut to some 15 years later, and Punk Kirk is baiting Starfleet plebes in a bar fight, getting the crap kicked out of him, and not for the last time in this film. A certain Captain Pike comes in to his rescue and dares him to join Starfleet to prove he can do something other than just, well, get the crap kicked out of him. Cut to 3 years later, Kirk's graduated early with his new best buddy, a certain Leonard McCoy. His graduation's cut short, though, as he cheated on a test made by a certain cadet, Spock. But then, that Romulan ship suddenly shows up again and proceeds to destroy Vulcan. Everyone's called to duty, except Kirk, who's on academic probation. Except McCoy helps him sneak aboard the Enterprise anyway. There's lots of space battling, threats to the rest of the Federation, two Spocks in one, and of course, we meet the rest of the Star Trek crew as elements come together to make it such that the original series never really happened. Only Kirk's brash maverickness can save the day. To hell with logic, I'm a doctor, not a scriptwriter, and hailing frequencies open. The end.
The lowdown.
Sure, why not?
Yes, I left a lot out because you have to.
You can't, yeah. This movie has a lot of plot.
Yes, and we start with Captain Thor of the USS Odin Prize.
It's one of my first notes is, save us, Captain Thor! Yeah, that's Chris Hemsworth as George E. Kirk.
He makes a great young officer.
He does.
He has that strength. I mean, honestly, I really truly believe Chris Hemsworth should be bronzed. But he's got that, he manages to still retain that youth that I've got some experience, but I really shouldn't probably be pushing all these buttons, and that strength at the same time. He's got a very small part. I think he does a great job for 5 seconds of character. The Romulan ship pops out. It's a hedgehog. It's Spiny Norman, kind of, I guess.
Dinsdale.
Yeah, Dinsdale. And you know, should we get to this now? Sure, let's get to this.
Yeah.
The production, the visual production of this film, I don't get any of it. So
many lens flares.
That's a J.J. Abrams thing. I get that. The production design, though,
hurts.
So this ship comes out of the Spain. I'm sorry, it's not a Spanus, except it is.
It is.
And it makes literally no sense. It's sort of this giant metal squid. We later find out that is just supposed to be a mining vessel. It is a mining vessel that seems to have almost no cargo space, although it has lots and lots of these metal arms, which actually don't do anything.
And a remarkable supply of torpedoes.
And the
it's
inside,
very heavily armed.
That too. It's got its own armada. It's ridiculously huge. It's miles long. And the inside of it is kind of, and I'm going to have to beep this, but the inside of it is kind of a shithole.
Yeah.
Like there's
It's
water
also
everywhere.
very damp. There's water all over the place. It's dripping off of things. It's, a little more on the walls than it would be an H.R. Geiger set.
Yeah, it's just like, it just doesn't work. And then we see the ship that Spock, this is Ambassador Spock from the future, is flying, and it's this little spinny thing. And it's like, why is part of the ship spinning? And the thing that does not seem to be able to go in a straight line, it just keeps whizzing all over the place like a fly.
Normally, I would say, it's spinning for artificial gravity. Except we know they already have that.
Well, and also, that's not the part that's spinning.
Yeah, that's not the part he's sitting in.
No, I don't get it.
Well, it's, navigating the air currents of space.
Sure. I mean, to be fair, there are currents. There's usually solar currents, but no. It's I don't
just
get
odd.
it. Then we get to the redesign of the Enterprise. On the outside, it's like, let's take a classic, iconic design and just add crap to it, because that's pretty much what they do.
Looks pretty similar. And then you go onto the bridge, and my first thought is, hi, welcome to the Genius Bar. Can I help you?
Well, also, there's all this glass. Why do you have glass on something where people are going to be tossed about like mindless sheep? You can't, I have no sense of the space of that bridge at all. It's way too bright. I don't know what the layout of anything is because it's just sort of amorphous. And then we get to engineering, which is bigger than the entire ship. And apparently it's a brewery.
Yeah, it's full of water tubes.
And giant vats of things. And it's like the Enterprise doesn't burn anything. There's no energy burning. We know that it's a matter-antimatter reaction, and it's very carefully controlled so they can just get energy out of it and not explode. And apparently the deal was he saw Titanic and was like, wow, the engine room in that ship was this great massive stuff, and he wanted to do that.
Yeah, but the Titanic ran on coal.
I know. I don't get it. I just don't understand. And it's ridiculously huge. Sadly, we'll run into this problem later on Discovery. One point they show the turbo lifts, and we have to see the outside of with the structure around, and it's this huge open space. Like, I'm sorry, when you have a space vessel, space it's at a premium. You don't just give it away to open space that isn't doing anything. And, I also have to say about the
Romulan
spaceship, there's a big Star Wars crossover here because apparently, just like the Empire, Romulans don't believe in handrails.
Oh, yeah. The place is a huge OSHA violation. It's unbelievably unsafe.
Yeah. So the uniforms are okay. They look kind of chintzy to me. Like they don't look like something that's going to hold up. Although, to be fair, Kirk never actually has his chest cut open or his shoulder ripped off, which we were expecting.
And we still have the mini skirts for some reason.
Women can wear pants. It's fine. Whatever. The production design in this film to me does not work at all. There's no point of it. I went, that's really cool. It's just like, this is not Star Trek, and it doesn't make sense. And I don't know where I am, and why are there pipes?
Yeah, and as you said, not just the production design, the costuming, the sets. The costuming, all I could think is when Spock is standing before the Vulcan High Council, I'm going, Vulcan's sweater technology is light years beyond our own.
It is called a turtleneck, Captain.
This is a Vulcan cable knit.
Yeah.
Don't try to understand its technology.
Yeah, and for reasons that I never understand, besides the fact that we get the Beastie Boys, we have to have another, big, obvious 20th century thing in, because young punk Kirk is driving in a Camaro, and the top flies off. And what does he do? He gets a call on the onboard phone system.
From Nokia. Yep.
And it's
Product
not like
placement.
It's not like even a little detail. It's like, Nokia, commercial starting now.
Somebody put a lot of money into that movie.
Yeah, whatever. And we get to hear his stepdad, giving Punk Kirk. Punk Kirk is a little, I'm going to have to beep it again. Punk Kirk's a little.
He is kind of a jackass. He's only on screen for 3 minutes, but already I don't like him. About
the only thing he doesn't do is flip off the cop. I'm surprised he didn't do that. And I guess what we're supposed to be seeing is we're supposed to be seeing the anger of not growing up with a dad. So, okay.
Sure, which apparently in the 22nd, 23rd century is still a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cop pulls him over because then we see Kirk pull a Cameron Fry, and the car, of course, it doesn't shoot out of the house, but it shoots off a cliff. Same thing. Who do you love? You love a car. But whatever. And then the next, so Kirk gets beaten up 4 times in this film. I counted 4 times. I will say this for Chris Pine. Nobody can cough like Chris Pine. He sounds like he's close to Doc Holliday level of lungerness. But yeah, so he's in a bar fight and he's just trying to he's picking on what turned out to be red shirts, and to be fair, they do have this tendency to die, but the one he picks on is a big, tough security officer. And it's like, okay. And why does he pick on him?
Because the guy's getting in his face because Kirk is hitting on Uhura.
Who's told him to leave?
The first time in 40 years gets a first name.
Yeah.
I'm sure in the comic books or the novels or the, God knows, the fan fiction, she's probably had 135 first names.
Yeah.
But this is the first time.
I think it's Nokia.
Something like that.
Nyota, something like that.
Yeah, Nyota, Nyota. And this is also, I think, the first movie where Sulu says his first name. We know his first name is Hikaru from something else, but
sure,
it's the first time he actually ever says it. I got to say, I had a little problem with Chekhov in this.
Really?
The way they play his accent, they're playing his accent for laughs, but we actually see it interfere with his work.
Right.
Because he's trying to enter an authorization code.
And Siri doesn't get it.
Yeah, he's trying to say, like, 7-something, Victor, Victor, and he's saying, Victor, Victor.
Yeah.
And the computer does not know to compensate for a Russian accent.
Yeah.
Maybe it shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. First of all, the idea that a nationalistic accent like that would have lasted that long when we're clearly at a single world government, it just didn't. It was silly and didn't make any sense. That annoyed me, which is too bad because Anton Yelchin does a really nice job as Chekhov, and he's adorable. I didn't quite buy he was 17 years old, but
I actually don't mind the accent, and here's one of the reasons why. It's the only one in the entire film.
Yeah,
the Vulcans don't have accents. The Romulans don't have accents. Nobody has an accent. And it's like...
Hey, excuse me, Scotty has an accent.
Oh, that's right.
And for the first time in history, played by an actual Scotsman.
Is he Scottish? I thought he's British.
No, Simon Pegg? Simon Pegg is Scottish.
Is he? His accent usually is British, that's why. Like his Glaswegian, that's not his accent. He actually had to be coached on that. Huh. You can look it up all you want, but it's true. He is at least raised British.
Raised British?
Yeah. But I read about him having to have a coach, and he's like one of his, I think his grandmother's Glaswegian.
You're right, he was born in England.
Yeah. But
at least he was British.
Apparently, Simon Pegg did not have to audition. He got an email from J.J. Abrams says, "I'd like you to be in this movie, please." And Simon Pegg's like, "Are you kidding? Of course I'll be in the movie. Who do I get to play?" So he didn't say it like that. Yeah. Let's talk about the cast.
Okay.
Because this is one of the most difficult casting jobs, I think, ever.
Yeah. It's really hard when you have this iconic television series.
Yeah.
And in the past, they sidestepped it. They either used the old cast, the very, very old cast, or they just said, nope, we're doing this 100 years in the future with with totally different people.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, a lot of the cast really works. I think Chris Pine is...
Yeah, let's start at the top.
Yep, I think Chris Pine is really good as Kirk. He doesn't try to do Shatner, thank goodness.
Although I wish there was an outtake where he does, because that would be really funny.
It would have been funny to watch him, do the pauses or the whatever. But I think he does that kind of cocky maverick thing. It's a little annoying with the daddy issues because that was a period in movie history, which is still going on, where all the heroes have daddy issues.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's not a Disney film, but still.
But I think he does a nice job. I think he's got that's the sense of humor. You understand why people follow him. I really like his friendship with Bones. I really like Carl Urban. We'll get to him. I think Carl Urban does a great job as McCoy. But anyway, what did you think of Pine as Kirk?
I agree with your assessment. Here's the question. Is he Kirk? Not really. The problem
Not the same Kirk, no.
No, and I think that the only issue I have is that he's a little bit too mavericky. And by that, I mean, I would probably want to slap him at some point, too. Now, they play up the horn dog Kirk, which, to be fair...
is pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean...
Let's beam down to this planet so I can find an alien to fall in love with before the end of the show.
Ain't I some? Yeah, and... the thing that I think is interesting is that there is a good explanation for it. Basically, and Pike kind of says this to him, it's like, Starfleet's kind of moribund. We're not going anywhere. We need somebody to kick it in the butt. And Kirk showing up pretty much does that. Now, he also, as I said, he literally gets beaten up 4 times. 4 times.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, the only one he really wins is the last one, and it's only because the guy was stupid enough not to take his gun out of his holster, but whatever. But I think that brashness, that cockiness, that horn dog, he does a very good job impersonating, fulfilling.
Yeah, embodying, yeah.
Second in command, we have Zachary Quinto.
I think he did a great job. I thought he was really good as Spock.
I think not only does he do a great job, and apparently he met a lot with Leonard Nimoy. Like, he's like, I really want to get this down. The kid who plays young Spock is excellent. He looks just like Quinto.
He does. And he's only in like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Which is it. But I thought he was, and I liked the whole thing of the way the Vulcan children pick on him. It's so Vulcan. It's like, you have I assume you have returned with new insults, correct?
Yeah, and I just the Vulcans are in this, and this is called the Kelvin universe. I'm guessing because the ship that gets blown up first and it causes the whole. Well, we're not really going to do the TOS anymore. Is the Kelvin? The Vulcans do a lot more of the. No, we actually do have emotions. We just hide them all the time thing than the original show. The original show, it's like, no. When you see the Vulcans, they don't. And I got to say, Mark Leonard he barely raises an eyebrow when he plays as Sarek until Next Gen. And even then, it's only because of a disease he's going through.
Yeah.
And they kind of should be cold-hearted bastards. They really should.
And they really play up the superiority complex they very clearly have.
Right. I mean, they're space elves, let's face it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Quinto, I really like his Spock a lot better than the guy who's playing him on Discovery. On Discovery, I just don't feel the same Nimoy-ness. And I don't think Quinto is in any way doing an impersonation of Nimoy, but he's embodying, that's the word I wanted before, he's embodying the character that Nimoy built. And I really appreciate his performance in this. From here, we can go to anywhere. Let's go to McCoy. Carl Urban. The only thing I have against his performance is they don't let him not be grumpy.
Yeah, he's grumpy all the time. I really like just a little thing of how he gets his nickname.
Right.
The idea, his ex-wife took everything. All I've got left is my bones. I thought that's really nice because otherwise you just assumed Bones. It was a nickname for Sawbones.
Right, which is itself not at all pleasant.
Yeah, and also really anachronistic.
Yeah,
I like that. I like his friendship with Kirk. I think it's very believable. He has this kind of both paternal, because he's clearly significantly older than Kirk.
Yeah,
but this kind of big brother quality to it.
Well, it's also nobody likes him because he's so grumpy, except Kirk, who seems to able to stand him.
Yeah.
So yeah, Carl Urban does a great job.
Although I keep thinking, here comes Dr. Aomer.
Dr. Ao. Oh, right. God, wasn't he blonde in that? That's why.
Yes,
I don't
he was.
him.
He was very blonde and had facial hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Zoe Saldana. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen her in something I didn't like, and she keeps getting these parts where she just basically, it's her. That's her now. We can't think of her as any. Now, Nichelle Nichols, sure. But this is a very different character. Part of the reason for that is they actually give her something to do.
Yeah, she actually has a skill set. She's not just a secretary in space.
Right.
I know, again, we can talk as much as you want about the fact that Uhura was the first black character on TV who wasn't a secretary or a maid, except she was kind of a secretary.
Yeah.
And she was an officer. That was a big deal. She was a bridge officer.
Yeah.
But, this is 2009, and it's also supposed to be the 23rd century.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the fact that her big thing is she's got she's really good at languages. She's a natural linguist. She's got really good auditory skills.
And thankfully, they never use the cunning linguist joke.
Yes, thank God. Yes. Yeah. Although Kirk makes some joke about being good with his tongue.
Yeah. Or she good with hers. Yeah. The fact that they also not only eliminated the original love interest for Spock, but they gave it to her.
Yeah.
I like their dynamic.
It really worked. I remember when I saw it in the movie the first time, I was like, wait, what? Yeah. Spock and Uhura? And then you're like, this actually works.
The problem, and we'll get a little bit to this, is that it ruins some of the performances of the original show. And we'll get to that. Let's continue with the cast.
All right.
We've got, I'm sorry, it's John, is it John? Not John Cho. What is his name? It's John Cho playing
I'm pretty sure.
Hikaru Sulu. Does fine. We don't get to see him do that much, except he pulls the sword out.
He doesn't get to do a lot, but what he does, he's good. He's
At least
decent.
he takes care of his Romulan.
Yes.
Just saying. I like Anton Yelchin. It was such a tragedy that poor kid died so young.
Yeah.
They make it a lot... Yeah, okay, maybe he's not 17, whatever. They make Chekhov a lot more fun as a character, quite honestly. They give him a little bit more... He's more capable. It's like, oh, I can do this. He runs down to the transporter room and he locks onto people falling through space, which is cool.
Mm. Yeah, he's like everybody's hyperactive kid brother.
Yeah. And, maybe we would have seen more of that if he hadn't died so young. But yeah, man, what a thankless task. We're going to recast all of these ridiculously iconic, and we're not talking like the Addams Family. This is Star Trek.
No, this is a show with a not just rabid, but fanatical, almost cult-like following.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, by the way.
Yeah, I am a huge Star Trek nerd, and when they announced this, I was not having it. Not at all. I am like, nope, this is going to stink. I'm going to go to this movie and sit there in my hatred watching this movie. And, well, we'll see how that turned out. I'll leave that for the end.
Yeah.
The guy playing Pike.
Oh, he's really good.
He is. That speech he gives Kirk, I think I'd have joined up.
I would have been tempted.
He's great.
We mentioned Simon Pegg briefly, but
yes.
I like his version of Scotty. I like that he's sort of the crazy genius.
Yeah.
He's clearly the square peg in the round hole. He doesn't really
you
fit
said
in.
Square peg.
Yeah. See what I did there? Yep. And he didn't quite fit into Starfleet, but he's so damn smart.
Yeah.
I liked him. The one thing I don't understand, and I guess it's supposed to be a running gag, who's the little guy? The bumpy-faced alien who hangs around with him? Is he... I mean, he has one line. He says, me. Is he sentient?
I think it's the only time it ever speaks, ever.
And it's in, I think, all of the movies, all three of the movies, but we don't know what it is. It doesn't have a name. It does... And honestly, that kind of got on my nerves.
It's not referencing anything I can think of.
I don't know. I
think they just threw it in.
Something. Yeah.
Is it his boyfriend? I don't know.
I don't know. But I really liked him.
Yeah.
I liked the sense, much more of a sense of fun. Even when he does I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. You're like, oh, look, he said the thing.
Yeah. Simon Pegg's another actor that I don't think I've ever not enjoyed his performance. He sort of radiates fun. I did not recognize him in The Force Awakens, but that's to be understood as he was under 300 pounds of suit. In fact, I think it was the Bruno Kirby Memorial Fat Suit.
Could have been.
Sorry, I just had to mention that because it's our sponsor this week.
Yep. Got to bring that in.
So yeah, I also think that we see that passion for just figuring things out and engineering, electronical and physical. So yeah, everybody actually works in this context really well, and I don't really have a problem with anybody they pick to be the major characters really at all.
I even like that was Ben Cross from Chariots of Fire as Sarek, and he did a really nice job.
They did something with him that I don't know if I agree with, but the scene was really touching.
Is that when he tells Spock why he married his mother?
The second time, because the first time, of course, he says, "Oh well, being somebody
it was logical."
It was logical because my job is to understand. I'm the ambassador to humankind. So what better way to get to know them than to marry one of them? And when he sees that basically his son is never going to get over the fact that he's two different sides together, never going to be the whole that everyone wants him to be, finally admits the reason he married her is because he loved her. And you could tell there, admitting that was as difficult as what Spock's going through, which is why I think he did it. We never learn why in the original show. Of course, Amanda shows up once, twice if you count the cartoon. But even there, their relationship somehow works. The fights must be absolutely maddening because they simply consist of her going, "Why did you do that?" It was the proper thing to do. Yes, but I ask you time and time again, and he just sits there stoically. Yes, dear. As you said, there's a lot of plot in this film. We've got time travel. We've got Romulans, bad Romulans.
We've got.
Interestingly, we get something that's referenced in the new Picard series, and that's the destruction of Romulus, because that actually does happen in the Picard series. And interestingly, that while it doesn't look like the Federation is trying to do anything to stop it, Picard is trying to save as many Romulans as he can, and the Federation basically goes, yeah, we're out of ships. Sorry, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah. Although, I got to say, at least in the Picard one, it made more sense, because in this movie, Spock says, oh, yes, there was a supernova that could have destroyed the galaxy.
Well,
that's what he says.
And what is his solution?
Blow it up, put a big black hole in the middle of it.
And it'll suck away that supernova and everyone will be fine. What?
Yeah, first of all, okay, I'm not an astrophysicist. There are supernovas they happen.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any big enough to do significant damage to the entire galaxy.
No.
And second of all, they're throwing around black holes like they're party favors.
Well, apparently they discovered red paint, and if you inject red paint into space, it makes a black hole.
Yeah, and I'm glad they don't try to explain the red matter. I mean, it's clearly just sort of a MacGuffin, but it doesn't make any sense. At the end, we see that one marble-sized piece of red matter is enough to create a singularity to suck up a planet.
Right.
The whole mass of it explodes at the end. It's like 100,000 times the size. It would have sucked up the whole galaxy. Nope, just this one ship.
Yeah, and it destroys it, I guess, instead of sending it into time one of my notes, there is no science in this movie. None.
Yeah, they really don't even try. There are just things that just don't make sense, and they don't bother. Even little things. You know what got me? Why did they bandage Kirk's hand? They put a friggin' bandage. It's the 23rd century, and they're using cloth bandages. Really?
Yeah.
Really? You haven't gotten anything better from the Revolutionary War?
Yeah, I mean, this goes along with the water pipes, too, because whatever. And you can beam into water, and somehow that displaces, and you don't be... Yeah. Also, let's be fair, this is less about exploration, less about the human condition, and a lot more about action. And quite honestly, there's too damned many action sequences.
Awful lot of action.
Like, we can't even maroon Kirk...
On Hoth.
No, it's Delta Vega, which actually was a planet from the original series, but it wasn't that planet.
Yeah, and they do that clearly because we want an alien monster. We got to have an alien monster. Only reason.
Yeah, and there's a chase sequence, which we don't care. I don't, whatever. And then, there has to be more fighting, and there are more fist fights. There's fist fights everywhere. Again, 4 times he gets beaten up, 4 times.
By the way, is it odd to you that when Kirk is goading Spock and finally pushes him over the edge to prove that he's emotionally compromised, and Spock is choke slamming him onto the console, no one objects except Sarek. No one says, oh, everyone just sort of standing there going, well, this is awkward. Like, your acting captain is about to murder someone, and you're all just standing around watching. Really? The Vulcan ambassador is the guy who has to go, excuse me.
Well, it's sort of like, no, that's bad. Don't do that. Spock, no, that's emotional.
I mean, is it just they were enjoying it? It's like, yeah, let that arrogant twerp get the snot slapped out of him. I don't know.
The expression said to me, well, that's something.
Even McCoy, who's supposed to be his buddy, is like, ooh, I don't know. Should I say something or not?
And I didn't look too closely, but maybe one of the extras is just standing there going, line? Line?
It's that scene confused me. And it's a big emotional scene, and I get it, and there's some cool stuff in it, but that part of it, the fact that they're not immediately trying to drag Spock off him.
Or ever.
At all.
Yeah.
That's weird.
No. So there's things missing from this film, too. Mostly any of Roddenberry's ideals. Any of the ideas he had about the future. About, honestly, people getting along. Because there's lots and lots of people not getting along in this film. Some of them are our crew.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, there was a dictate that there would never be any interpersonal problems between the crew on the original show. And when it got to Next Gen, that was also a dictate, although he had less power then. Eventually, of course, he passed away, and they just sort of
that went out the airlock. Yeah.
Especially in DS9. But it's really, in a lot of cases, the trappings of Star Trek, but with lots of pew pew ba-da ba-dow. And we don't really see the reason Star Trek was made. A lot of people forget, and if you're not somebody who's ever watched the original series, or if you have no context, like if you're young enough that you weren't around in the 60s or 70s, Star Trek did a lot of commentary on social issues. And back then, it was really hard to get anything like that on the air because the censors would cut it. They were like, no, you can't talk about racial relations. We can't do that. These days, it's like you can say the F-bomb on pretty almost on NBC. I still remember when the word penis was able to be said on TV, and Dave Letterman just went to town with it. Or no, was it him? No, it was SNL. It was SNL.
Saturday Night Live did an entire sketch where they said it like 140 times.
Yeah. I wish that there had been some semblance of why Star Trek has hung around as long as it had. And it was really much more action-y than it was Star Trek-y.
I don't know. I thought the context, I thought the background of it all was sort of very Star Trek-y. The whole idea that the emphasizing that Starfleet isn't a military organization.
Yeah. Oh, this gun? Oh, it's a collectible. We were just transporting it over there.
Why do we all have naval ranks? Look, tribbles.
Yeah, and we do see a tribble.
I don't remember. Where do we see a tribble?
It's on Scotty's desk.
Right.
Yeah. And that's always been a question. To be fair, there's been episodes of the original series that do deal with this. One of the earliest episodes where Kirk proves that humanity can make some really good choices is the Corbomite maneuver, when basically they're being attacked by this seemingly giant ship that's going to just like grab them and yank them off to who knows where and do whatever it wants with them. They manage to get away from a smaller version of said ship and disable it, leaving it adrift where supposedly the life support is dying on the ship, and with it, the commander of said ship. And the members of the crew are like, let's finish this thing off. Oh my God. And Kirk is like, no, let's go and help. Let's go and see what we can do. Which turns
also happens in this movie. At the end, when Nero's ship is being destroyed, Kirk says, if you surrender, just surrender. We'll bring you over. We'll rescue you.
Well, except what he says is, yeah, okay. if you want to give up, we'll rescue you. Wink, wink. It's like, no, rotten Federation bastards. All right, I tried. Kill it. So, because that's what he does. He doesn't even let them go. It's like, nope, shoot them with everything we've got. We still got throw water balloons, whatever. The Spanus isn't enough. So, kind of not really.
I suppose.
And there's a lot of kind of not really in this movie. But speaking of which, I think we should get to our questions. We'll still have time for any of your points in case we need to come back, but I just want to make sure we have time for these. Does this movie capture the feeling of its source material?
I think somewhat. I don't think it would if we didn't have some context. There's a lot of blanks the viewer fills in themselves. Even people who didn't actually watch the original show when it was on, they still know about it. It's so much a part of our culture that it sort of fills in the parts that the movie doesn't do. And I think this does capture some of it. Updates it, it changes it. As you say, there's much more interpersonal conflict. There's there are different ideas. But I think it does. I think it keeps true to some of the spirit.
I think where it captures it is in the performances. I honestly think that the people playing the characters did a really good job trying to embody the characters that we all know and love. The story, not so much.
Which one? There's like 8 stories in this. Yeah.
Well, they're on one point they're like, look, we know there's people who've never seen Star Trek and they've heard the names Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, but don't know who they are. So let's try and provide some context. And so they do. And so we get a little bit more background on Kirk. It's kind of fun. I don't know if it's great, but it's kind of fun. Kirk's a little punk. There's just no other way. I can't think of another word to describe him. So I think there was the intent, but there was also a much bigger intent to do whatever they wanted with it, which is, does this movie respect its source material?
I think it's trying to, but I also think you get the feeling the writers are sitting there going, well, this is really old-fashioned. We have to update it.
Yeah.
I think it does to a degree, if only, and not just because of all the little callbacks and the little references. I mean, Scotty makes a comment about experimenting on Admiral Archer's pet beagle, which is a little nod to the show Star Trek Enterprise.
Yep.
I think it does. I think it respects it to a degree, and then sort of stops.
I think they believed they were being respectful. But I think that, like you pointed out, why are there bandages? There's all these weird things that just pop up that's like, why are they? Oh, it's because it's funny. Okay, right. So Siri doesn't understand a Russian accent because that's funny. It's like the episode, what is it? I think it's Star Trek 5, where Uhura is pulling out a Klingon dictionary in book form.
Oh, yeah. I think that was 6, yeah.
Whatever. It's like, really? Okay. Yeah, great. That makes sense.
Yep.
So I think it was played much more as a big blockbuster film than it was a Star Trek film. But I do think that there was definitely people paying attention and trying to, especially, again, the actors, who I think... I'm amazed that I liked them as much as I did, because I really, it's like, you're taking my Kirk and my Spock and you're flushing them down the toilet. What are you going to give me? And it's like, oh, you actually gave me something pretty cool. So, and lastly, there are 3 questions for this series. Does this movie take advantage of the fact that it's a movie and not just an episode?
Oh, big time. I mean, I think, honestly, it goes a little overboard.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little too much of the very first Star Trek movie, Star Trek The Motionless Picture, where it was just so much of, we've got a budget, look at how big everything is, look at all this stuff.
Yeah.
And this was more like, it's got to take place throughout different time periods and on different planets, and we're going to bring in all these different things.
Yeah.
I definitely think it feels like a movie, not a TV show, definitely. Yeah. Maybe a little too much so.
I think that you could have made a season out of this. Like, this could have been a 10-episode season of a Star Trek show. And these days, those kinds of shows, like everyone complains, there's only 10 episodes in this thing. Yeah, look at the production values. These shows look like movies. Star Trek Discovery's production, and say what you will about it, and I'm not going to do that here, it looks like it costs a lot of money. So did Picard. TV shows these days just are expensive. And this film was expensive. I didn't look that up. I'm surprised I didn't look up budget and take. Obviously, it was successful enough to do 2 more of them.
Yeah.
And maybe a 4th, because nobody's sure. It's been 5 years.
I was wondering about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they done, or are they going to, or are they going to wait a few more years and reboot it again?
Well, the rumors were that Pine didn't want to do it, or at least he couldn't fit it into his schedule, so they kept putting it off, and then the pandemic happened, and they were just like, yeah, whatever. And then I heard maybe they are going to do one. I don't know. The last one was not my favorite, not least of which because they win through the power of their rockin'.
Squiddly flabbly do.
Yeah, but anyway, do you have any more notes before we get to our little roundup?
Yeah, I was a little surprised they don't really point out the tragedy. They really don't linger on the genocide of Vulcan, that they just killed 6 billion people very much.
Well, the Vulcans
and they really don't point out that, Spock says there are like 10,000 Vulcans left. They don't point out that that's not enough to rebuild a species. Unless they really get into interbreeding.
Well, let's face it, it's the future, and genetic engineering is probably a thing, so it probably is. There's going to be Vulcan vat babies, that's all.
I did think it was both interesting and kind of annoying that they make such a point, they actually stop and explain, okay, because of this time travel thing, everything that was going to happen is changed.
Yeah.
They're like looking at all the Trekkies, looking at the audience going, you understand? We don't have to follow the exact storyline. We can do all sorts of different stuff. And now in the second movie, we're bringing back Khan. But!
Yeah. And say what you will about that, but it's almost as if Chris Pine, as Captain Kirk, literally looks into the camera and says, up yours, cannon.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the end of that, but the problem I had with it mostly was they literally stop the movie to tell you that. It
kind of grinds to a halt right there.
And it's like, this means, cool. We're Star Trek different, and nobody can touch us. La 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 la. Now, to be fair, there's 2 reasons for that. 1, we don't need to watch them remake all of the old Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
2, at that point, the TV shows and the movies were owned by 2 different people. They kind of had to because, we can't use all these characters because Paramount won't let us. We have to keep this movies and do movie stuff, which is somehow different. I don't know how that ever got split up and why that makes sense, but thankfully it's not a thing anymore, so whatever. I'll be interested to see what ends up happening. Other than that, I think it might be time for the roundup. The roundup. So, Max.
Yeah.
You saw this when it came out, didn't you?
I did. I saw it in the theater.
And what did you think?
I was really impressed. At the time, Now, I don't claim to be as into Star Trek as some people like, you. But I liked it a lot. I watched it, I watched every episode. I watched most of the series. Not all of them. I didn't really get into Enterprise. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. And my first thought was, damn, they kind of did it. They did a nice job with mostly again with the cast. They've stayed true to the characters. They got some really good people doing it. In fact, let's face it, they got some better people doing it.
Oh, what you said.
Sorry, but the acting quality, well, whatever. Let's not get into that. I thought it was really impressive. I did think the story, even then I thought, wow, they kind of shove an awful lot in there.
Yeah.
And now when I look at it, I still think the cast is terrific. I still think they do keep true to the spirit. I was looking forward to the next one, mainly because I thought maybe they won't try to jam as much in and it won't be as all over the place as this one was. What about you, as your beloved Star Trek Reborn?
I have been a Star Trek nerd since I was a little kid. Star Trek is my show. I adore Star Trek. I've read tons about Star Trek. I built that stupid Enterprise model more times than I can count. And goddamn, those nacelles never went in right. 947 feet, just so you know. And I put my hate jacket on, and I went to the hate theater, and I sat in my hate seat, and I was just like,
and you're a bucket of hate corn.
I hate corn. I'm going to... And I was like, oh, that thing they did where they stopped the movie to tell us, the way they did it was annoying. But the way, the description itself, the reasoning, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I get it. You don't want to just rehash the old show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Although, con. And I don't want to see you do it. And this way I can choose not to be angry about what you do with the characters because stuff happened. And quite honestly, of all the time travel we've ever watched, this is the only time travel I've seen where they not only acknowledge that we're in a different time stream, we didn't go back in time, we're in a different time stream, stuff's going to be different.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. We don't know what we were going to be like. We don't know what was going to happen, but it's not going to be that anymore. The performances are really good. I like everybody who plays all of the characters. They inhabit them really well. They bring their own twists, but they don't make them things they're not. There's just stuff in the plot which just does not make sense. I've shown up. I'm a badass Romulan guy. I have no accent, whatever, even though I'm Australian. I'm going to tool around for 25 years for no particularly good reason and do absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
And then-
my God, that must have been boring. I'm amazed his crew didn't kill him.
How did nobody see them?
Yeah, it's
like-
well, okay, space, as they say, as Douglas Adams tells us, is really, really big.
Space is big. Space is dark. It's hard to find a place to park. But they knew the Spanus was there because they sent the SS Kelvin to go. Yeah. Do you think somebody just went, well, yeah, Kelvin went away.
Well, no,
that happens.
They sent the USS Fahrenheit and the USS Celsius, and they didn't come back either.
But it's just like, so they just, left?
Yeah.
And nobody aged. Like, all the Romulans look exactly the same. I kind of liked the punk-ass Romulans, though.
They were kind of cool looking. I like the tattoos.
It's the first time we also just don't see them all being military. And quite honestly, they also have their own shoulders, which is a really nice change from TNG. So there's things about this that even as a dyed-in-the-wool 60s TOS Shatner, Nimoy, Kelly Star Trek nerd, I liked. And I was like, you know what? I'll go see a sequel. And I went and saw the sequel. Strangely, I ended up liking the sequel more than most people. It's like, yes, Khan is once again played not by an Indian guy for reasons I do not understand. And once again, Benedict Cumberbatch shows that his American accent is suspect. But I enjoyed Into Darkness. I was like, I've watched it a few times. So this new Star Trek, it's very much pew pew ba-dow ba-dow. It's not at all exploration. It's not really dealing with anything with the human condition, which is a shame. But yeah, all its plot holes and problems, I enjoyed it. Surprise. But so we'd like to just rehash our poll question for next week, which we hope you will answer in one of these myriad ways, such as our website. You can go to our website, which not only has all of our previous episodes, and there's a lot of them. Find one. There'll be one you like. There'll be a whole series you probably like. That's maxmikemovies.com. Leave a comment there. As you may guess, we have an email address that goes with said website. That email address is us@maxmikemovies.com. You can go to all of that wonderful social media that everyone is just all excited about these days, as long as it's either Facebook or Twitter. We're Max Mike Movies users there. If you want to, you can also just go ahead and text Max directly at 1-800.
It's 1-800-BITE-ME-MIKE.
Yeah, that's 7. Never. Yeah. And if you just like to listen to podcasts, that's fine too. We love listeners. Hey, if you can, give us a rating. I know a couple of people did the last time we asked. It helps us out. People might find us. We'd love more listeners. Tell folks about it. The podcast app of your choice probably has us in there. Max Mike Movies.
Most likely.
So, although if I'm telling you this, it means you already. Yeah. Anyway, so the question we have for next week that we would like you to answer is, what movie is it that you just really love and everyone else just seems to hate? Or rather, what movie warms your little heart, the cockles therein, but makes your friends look at you funny and when you mention liking it? Let us know. There will be Bumpy Bucks, Bumpy Hut catalogs, and the like, but Next week, we are
Next week.
continuing the series
Yes, we are.
Made from TV Love You. But what were we continuing it with, Max? Do tell.
We are continuing with a classic piece of Americana. That was another show from the 60s, I believe,
Yeah.
that found new life in the 90s.
Ooh, something important, something culturally significant. This is
Absolutely.
great. Yeah.
We're talking, of course, about George of the Jungle.
Huh?
Yep, going from a black and white cartoon to almost
color.
to about 30, 40 years later into a Brendan Fraser movie vehicle. And Thomas Hayden Church. Yes.
Make sure to pray at the Hayden Church of your choice.
Yes, and we will see if in fact George of the Jungle is strong as he can be. This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.